Alina hadn't been back to her family's home in nearly 7 years. She didn't leave out of rebellion. She left out of heartbreak. The same house that once smelled of her grandmother's almond cookies and jasmine tea now held the stench of secrets, covered in thick layers of denial. But she had no choice now. Her grandmother had passed. The funeral was quiet, proper, and filled with crocodile tears. Alina sat at the back of the room, black veil covering the grief that no one seemed to share. Her family barely acknowledged her. Her mother kept glancing at her like she was a stain on white linen. Her cousin Leanne, perfect, polished, and cruel, offered a dry, obligatory hug, the kind that ends before it starts. It wasn't until after the service, when the guests had left and the house had quieted again, that the true storm began. "Where is it?" Leanne hissed as she pulled Alina aside into the hallway lined with dusty oil paintings. "Where's what?" Alina asked, her tone flat. "Don't play stupid. Grandma's emerald ring, the one she wore every day, the one she said would be mine." Alina blinked, stunned. That ring had been promised to her. Her grandmother had whispered it into her hand, pressed her fingers around the cool green stone the night before her stroke. "You'll know what to do with it when the time comes," she had said, her voice brittle but sure. Alina shook her head. "I don't have it." Leanne leaned in, venom in her voice. "You always were the sneaky one. Don't forget we all remember what happened with the college fund." Her heart dropped. That again. The fund her uncle had accidentally drained and pinned on her. The lie had been too convenient. She had no evidence then, just shame. She never defended herself. Maybe that's why they all believed it. Maybe that's why they thought she'd steal the ring too. But this time was different. This time Alina had kept something. Later that night, after the family had split up Grandma's china and argued over the oak dresser like scavengers, Alina slipped into her grandmother's bedroom. It was untouched, exactly how she remembered it. The lace curtains danced slightly in the breeze from the open window. She kneeled beside the old armoire, pulled back the floral carpet, and pried open a hidden floorboard. There it was. Not just the emerald ring, but a faded envelope tucked beneath it, her name written in soft, trembling cursive. Alina's breath caught. She opened it slowly, fingers trembling. "My dearest Alina, I know they'll come for this ring. It was your grandfather's promise to me, just like you are my promise to the future. If you're reading this, then you've come home with a heavy heart. But you must also come with clear eyes. You have more strength than they ever gave you credit for. You'll need it now. There's more than just this ring. Follow the ledger I kept. You'll find it hidden in the piano bench. You'll understand everything when you do. Love always, Grandma." Alina looked down at the green stone in her hand, still set in its vintage gold. It gleamed in the soft moonlight, but it felt heavier than jewelry should. She stood and crossed the room to the piano, opened the bench. There it was, an old leather-bound ledger filled with neat handwriting, receipts, copies of legal papers, and photos. Her pulse quickened. Names, transfers, secret documents that mapped out the slow siphoning of Grandma's accounts by someone who had access, someone trusted. And right there, circled in red ink, Leanne, $47,600, transfer, June 2017, unauthorized. Alina sank onto the bed. Her heart was racing. She stared at the evidence. They lied about her. They all did. And they stole from the very woman they claimed to love. But now, finally, she had proof. And she wasn't going to waste it. Alina stayed up the entire night. Every page of the ledger tightened the knot in her chest. Her grandmother had documented everything. Every withdrawal, every gift that Leanne claimed, every check signed under duress. There were even notes in the margins. Leanne said it was for school, but she never went. Mother said I was confused, but I remember. I always remember. This ring must go to Alina. No one else deserves it. By dawn, Alina's eyes burned from reading, but her mind had never felt sharper. She made a list, names, numbers, dates, organized everything, photographed every page, uploading the images into a cloud folder. She created backups, then backups of those backups. Because she knew one thing about her family. When cornered, they didn't apologize. They attacked. Downstairs, the house had returned to its usual morning chaos. Clinking dishes, forced laughter, and muffled arguments behind closed doors. The family was set to meet with the estate attorney in the afternoon to discuss the division of assets. Alina sat at the breakfast table quietly, coffee untouched. Leanne swept into the room in a silk robe, as if she already owned the house. "Oh," she said with mock surprise, "you're still here?" Alina didn't flinch. "Where else would I be?" "You've never had much reason to stick around, but now, of course—" Leanne tilted her head and let her voice trail off, letting implication do the dirty work. "I guess I like watching people squirm," Alina said smoothly, "especially when they think they've already won." Leanne's smile faltered, but only for a moment. She shrugged and left the room, calling over her shoulder, "Don't be late to the attorney's office. Wouldn't want to miss your $5 inheritance." The office was in a polished brick building downtown, all glass doors and cold air conditioning. The family sat around a sleek table, the air tense. Alina was seated directly across from Leanne, who kept smirking as if she were already redecorating the house in her head. Mr. Hollander, the attorney, cleared his throat. "Thank you all for coming. As you know, Margaret Dawson's will has been updated several times over the past decade. She was meticulous about her intentions." He paused, flipped a few pages. "Before we begin, I must inform you that Mrs. Dawson left behind a private addendum, one not previously disclosed. It was placed in a safety deposit box and delivered to me directly this morning." Leanne shifted in her seat. "An addendum? Why wasn't this mentioned earlier?" "It was sealed. Client instructions were to reveal it only once the will was read aloud." Alina sat still. Her heart pounded. The attorney continued, reading from the new letter. "To my family, if you are reading this, I am no longer here. I leave my love to those who honored it, and my silence to those who abused it. Some of you have lied, some have taken without permission, some have watched it happen. You know who you are." Leanne laughed out loud. She was losing her mind at the end, we all saw it. But Mr. Hollander ignored her. He slid a printed photo onto the table, a copy of the ledger's page, the one with Leanne's name on it, circled, noted. Mrs. Dawson provided financial documentation detailing unauthorized access to her accounts. She requested that any individual found engaging in such conduct be removed from the inheritance entirely. The room went silent. Leanne's face drained of color. That's not real. That's forged." "I verified the documents myself. The handwriting matches across multiple years. The bank statements were subpoenaed. They confirm the transfers. This is legally binding." Alina kept her eyes locked on Leanne. Her cousin turned toward her, lips trembling with rage. "You did this." "I didn't take a cent," Alina replied, voice calm. "You did that all on your own." Mr. Hollander continued, "Per Mrs. Dawson's final instruction, the family house will not be split. It will remain under the name of Alina Dawson. Furthermore, the emerald ring, a family heirloom, has been designated to her as well." Leanne stood, knocking her chair over. "You think this changes anything? You think you can just waltz back into our lives and take everything? You're nothing." Alina slowly stood too. "No, Leanne. I'm what you pretended to be for years, the one she actually trusted." That night, Alina didn't sleep. She sat in the living room, the emerald ring glinting on her finger, her grandmother's journal in her lap. She hadn't expected it to go this far this fast, and she knew Leanne wouldn't give up quietly. But what Alina didn't know, not yet, was that Leanne had one last move to make. A move that involved the past Alina thought she had buried. Because the secrets in that house didn't start with the ring, and they definitely wouldn't end there. It was raining the next morning, the kind of slow, soaking drizzle that made everything feel heavier. Alina stood by the wide front window, watching droplets race each other down the glass. She didn't trust the quiet. Not in this house. Not with Leanne still lurking. She had barely slept, and when she did, her dreams were filled with fragments, her grandmother's voice, the scent of lavender drawers, and that locked door at the end of the hallway, the one nobody ever opened. Her mother used to say, "That's where old things go to rest." But Alina had a different memory of it, one she had buried deep. A night when she was 8, a scream, a slammed door, her father with blood on his collar. She shook it off. The house creaked behind her, the way it always did when it wanted to remind you it was watching. Leanne didn't show up that day, nor the next. But Alina knew she wasn't gone, just retreating, regrouping. The type of snake that slithers back into tall grass before striking again. And sure enough, on the third day, the phone rang. "Hello?" "You don't know what that ring means," Leanne said, her voice smooth as silk but full of edges. "She kept things from you, too. I'm not interested in your warnings." "You should be," Leanne hissed, "because you're living in a house of lies, Alina, and trust me, you've only opened the first box." The line went dead. Later that afternoon, Alina found herself standing in front of that door. It was narrower than she remembered, the wood cracked from age, but still shut tight. She pressed her hand against it. Cold. She took a breath, then went to the laundry room, rummaging through the drawer that had always held spare keys. Most were unmarked, but one, an old brass one with faded green paint, felt familiar. She tried it. The door opened with a reluctant groan. It smelled like mothballs, cedar, and something else, something metallic. Inside, the room was dim, lit only by the light spilling in through the hallway. Boxes lined the walls, and in the center sat an old rocking chair with a blanket draped over it. The same blanket her grandmother had once said belonged to Alina's grandfather. She stepped in. A photo album sat on the table beside the chair, but not the kind with happy memories. These were newspaper clippings, court documents, and letters with red stamps that read, "Confidential." And then she saw the name. Eleanor Dawson, case closed, 1974. Her grandmother's sister, the one nobody ever talked about, the one who disappeared. Alina turned the page. There she was. A black and white photo of Eleanor smiling in a courtroom, and another showing her in handcuffs. A post-it note in Grandma's handwriting. The first betrayal. The reason I watched everything so closely after. Below it, typed and highlighted, inheritance fraud, forged wills, family conflict. Alina's breath caught. She hadn't even known this woman existed, and as she flipped through more documents, it became clear Eleanor had been at the center of a scandal that nearly destroyed the family legacy. But Grandma had kept it hidden, buried, until now. There was a creak behind her. She spun. A figure stood in the hallway. "Mom?" Her mother stepped into the frame of the door, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. "You weren't supposed to see this," she said quietly. "Why? Why keep this from me?" Alina's voice cracked. Her mother sighed, stepping inside the room and pulling the door shut behind her. "Because the past doesn't just rot, it spreads. Margaret never wanted you to carry this weight. She wanted you to be free of it. But she left me the ring, the ledger. This room was meant for me." Her mother paused. "You think that ring was a gift?" Her tone turned bitter. "That ring is a key, and a curse. It's what started everything with Eleanor, too." Alina's pulse pounded in her ears. "What do you mean?" Her mother turned to her slowly. That emerald was never just jewelry. It was leverage. And if Leanne knows what it really unlocks, she won't stop until she has it. That night, Alina stared at the ring under the lamplight. She turned it over and over, feeling along the edges. Her grandmother's words echoed again. "You'll know what to do with it when the time comes." There was a tiny indentation on the inner band, barely visible unless you knew to look. She slid a paperclip into the groove and gently twisted. A soft click. The top of the stone shifted slightly, revealing a compartment barely large enough for a folded piece of parchment. She pulled it out with shaking fingers. It was a map. A crude drawing of the house and surrounding property, with one spot marked in red ink behind the garden shed. Beneath it, 2 words in her grandmother's careful script. Final proof. Alina's fingers trembled. The war wasn't over, it was just beginning, and this house was a battlefield built on generations of betrayal. She now had the ring, the ledger, and the map. But Leanne and the legacy of Eleanor were coming for all of it. The garden behind the house was still soaked from last night's rain. The grass was slippery, the earth soft beneath Alina's boots as she made her way to the shed. It loomed like a forgotten mausoleum, half swallowed by ivy and time. She glanced down at the wrinkled map in her hand. The red X was only a few feet away now, right beneath the rose trellis. She dropped to her knees, dug. The wet earth caked her hands, her nails, her sleeves. She didn't stop, not when her arms ached, not when her vision blurred. Then, her fingers scraped wood, a box, worn, locked, and sealed with wax. The family crest carved into the top. She dragged it free and stood, just as footsteps crunched behind her. Looking for treasure? Leanne's voice curled around her like smoke. Alina didn't turn. You followed me. Of course I did. I told you. The ring was never yours. Grandma was senile. She gave it to the wrong granddaughter. She gave it to the only one who didn't bleed her dry. Leanne walked closer. You have no idea what you're holding. That box has secrets that could ruin this family. Alina finally faced her. They already did. I just want the truth. No, you want revenge, Leanne snapped, just like Eleanor did. Alina blinked. You knew about her? I studied her, Leanne hissed. She made the same mistake you're making now, digging up dirt, thinking justice will win. It won't. It never does. Power wins. Alina's eyes narrowed. That's why you embezzled from Grandma, why you turned everyone against me. You think this is a game. It is a game, and I've always played it better. Leanne lunged forward to snatch the box, but Alina moved faster. She pulled a hidden phone from her pocket. The camera was on, the microphone live. You really should have checked my coat, Alina said, voice cool. You've been streaming this whole conversation to Grandma's attorney. Leanne froze. Her mouth fell open. You're lying, she whispered. Try me. 3 days later, Alina stood at the courthouse, flanked by Mr. Hollander and a detective from the Financial Crimes Unit. The box had been filled with original documents, forged will drafts, signed confessions, and an old voice recording of Grandma recounting her fear of Leanne. The evidence was damning. Leanne was arrested that morning. The news spread like wildfire. A headline on local news. Heiress fraud scandal exposed. Granddaughter faces charges after family secrets unearthed. Her mother hadn't called. Neither had her aunt or uncle. But that silence felt different now. No longer rejection, just the hollow sound of their lies falling apart. Alina returned to the house one last time. She walked through each room slowly, letting the memories find her. The laughter, the betrayal, the quiet resilience of her grandmother. A woman who had suffered so much and still managed to shield the truth until the right hands could reveal it. She stood in the garden again, next to the disturbed earth. The roses swayed gently. She slid the emerald ring off her finger, kissed the stone, then pressed it deep into the soil. It had served its purpose. She didn't need it anymore. 6 months later, Alina stepped into her new office, a modest suite above a legal aid nonprofit. She had started a trust in her grandmother's name, the Margaret Dawson Foundation, offering pro bono help for elderly clients targeted by financial abuse. The sunlight streamed through the window as she hung her first framed article on the wall, not the scandal, but her own headline, From Betrayal to Justice, Granddaughter Launches Foundation to Protect the Voiceless. Alina smiled to herself. The ring was gone, but the legacy, the real legacy, was just beginning. The end checkmark.